Well, I was in Vietnam when that trip took place, and I didn't know anything about it because the mail back then, there wasn't computers, so I learned about the trip long after they took it, 2 or 3 weeks after. But we were stationed at Fort Riley and got to know some of the students here, and God just led us back here. I had my degree in education. I wanted to teach and coach track. I ran track at OU, and that's what I wanted to do. But it's amazing how God opens different doors for us, things that we initially thought we might do, and God just had a different plan. And gratefully, Sandy and I were ready to come up here. So I'm really glad you guys are here. I'll have a few notes because my brain is not wiggling quite as fast as it used to, but I am so glad you're here, and I'm grateful for the staff for pulling this off, to have the vision to do it. God, throughout the Old Testament, God is always calling us to remember, and some of our memories are incredibly wonderful, some are incredibly difficult. I know a number of your stories, and I know some of you have been through heartbreaking challenges, either relational issues, health issues, job issues, children issues, and I know you bring that here. And I want you to know that, I'm really aware of that, and as we celebrate and have fun with each other, I want you to know that I know many of you have brought deep heartache to this time. And so, as we get together, my prayer is at the end of the day, God will really meet each one of us, certainly in different ways, but that's my prayer for the day. Where to start? When I came to OU in 1965, I came there. The reason I went to OU is I got a track scholarship to be a distance runner. And, I had no vision. I had no purpose. I had no heart for God. I had no godly character. And that's how I arrived at OU. And when I left, those things had traction, as I'm sure with many of you. In my college years were so critical to me. And however, I'm still a work in progress, as Sandy will attest to, and others that know me well. And so, in standing up here today, I come as a very weak person. Paul said in 2 Corinthians, when I am weak, it's then I am strong. And so our capacities to cope and to work and to seek to advance the kingdom comes in the context of our being inadequate and feeling needy. And then that's where the Holy Spirit has free reign to fill us with Himself. Someone was telling me a couple days ago, maybe yesterday, that, don't forget about prayer. And I began to pray as a college student that God would use me. And I'm still praying that today. I started walking with God in 1966, so do the math on that. 56 years later, I still pray, and I hope you do. Because, prayer isn't preparation for the ministry. It is the ministry. And how easy prayer gets set aside in our lives. And I feel as dependent to God today as I did when I showed up at Kansas State. There's a verse that, let me start with this. I forgot this, a picture of my family. Can you throw that up there? Yeah, so David and Dee and Jessica are here today. David's over there with some friends, and Dee lives in New York City. She lives in the Big Apple. We live in the Little Apple. And Jessica lives in Baton Rouge, and she and her family are to the right side. Dia's in the back there between Jessica and her oldest daughter, Lilias. And David is on the left side with his wife, Katie, and their 3 kids. And, they live in Baton Rouge and Naples, Florida, and in New York City. So that's our problem is parents and grandparents, the family's so scattered. But we make it work, and, as God opens opportunities, we go see them. And I just want you to meet them because they're my most special people in the world. So there's a verse in 1 Corinthians 1:9 that really kind of set a stake for me when I was in college, and to this day, it's my go-to verse about what I'm kind of really want to be about, because it says, God is faithful. You are called by him into fellowship with his Son, Jesus Christ our Lord. So for you and for me, this is what God is about, calling us into fellowship with him. And that's not just a one-time event. This is what we should be doing right now. We should be just as close to God and in communion with him as we are at church on Sunday, as we are studying Bible, as we are taking a prayer walk, as we are listening to a podcast. The fellowship with God is ours today. And I think one of my hallmark verses over the years is John 15:5. And Jesus said, I am the vine, and you are the branches. If you abide in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Everyone wants to bear fruit. We want to see God do things in our life, and through this, there's a doorway, there's a journey to fruit, and it's in abiding. It's in union with Christ. And so I ask myself this all the time, and I can ask you, are we really abiding in Christ? We don't want to be people that, have to look back to our K-State days and how great God was and how great God was working. We want to be able to engage with the wonder of God today. So let me get down here. I thought about what am I going to say to y'all this morning. I'm not going to go through each decade. This happened in the 70s. This, for one thing, I don't have the time, and I don't have the memory. But so I'm going to kind of tell you where I am today. So this is hot off the press, and but the fact is, this has all been moving toward this day since I started walking with God in 1966. And so my today story is a compilation of many years in the past. So the first thought is that what I seek to do is walk in the presence of God. Psalm 16 says, God said, in my presence is fullness of joy. And so I have to ask my God, is the presence of God really at work? Or is God like somewhere out there that I have to kind of reel in my quiet time? Or is the presence of God really working? And there's two things that help me in that. One is reading the Bible to meet God. Now, yes, I read the Bible to get information. Sometimes I speak here and there. But I primarily read the Bible to meet God. And let me give you an illustration of that. A while back, actually toward the beginning of the year when I started reading through the Bible, Genesis 8:1 says, and God remembered Noah. Well, of course, that wasn't a lot of great information to me. I mean, how could God forget Noah? You know, everyone else was destroyed. And so, you know, okay. So, but I thought, well, what is here for me? And I started thinking about a passage in Matthew that talks about God remembering the sparrows. So I was thinking about that. So I have Noah over here that obviously God should remember, and I have the sparrows over here, and I'm pondering this in my reading the word time. The sparrows over here, and so it's like I'm standing right in the middle. Noah's over here, and the sparrows are over here, and you know what? God remembers me. And so I read the Bible to meet God. And then the second thing in the experience the presence of God is prayer. And I want to meet God in prayer. And in recent years, I've thought of prayer as more of a dialogue than just asking requests. And so that's what I've been working on in recent years, to have a dialogue with God. You know, you're enjoying each other here today. Why? Because one person is dominating the conversation? No, because there's a dialogue between you, and that's how prayer should be. John 10:27, I think we got a verse for that. Jesus says, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." You know, everyone wants to follow Jesus. Oh, yes, I'm a follower of God. Oh, yes. Did you know the secret to following is hearing Jesus? And I don't think we know very much at all about that. And I've had to really build those muscles. Yeah, I have hearing aids. I've met some of you that have gone over that hill. And you know why I wear them? You know, they're a hassle. I got in the shower one time with them. You know, they get clogged up. They have to have maintenance and all that. I have no interest or no joy in hearing aids. There's only one reason only I wear hearing aids, is because I want to hear you. That is the only reason I wear hearing aids. And when Jesus calls us to listen, you know, we should want to listen to him, and then in that context we can follow. Let me give you an illustration how this works with me. So when I was a college student, I was reading a book about a missionary, Hudson Taylor, and there was so much scripture in it, and I was praying through these verses that surrounded his life, and then in a couple days later, I was having my quiet time, and I was reflecting over his life and the commitment he had to the Bible. And I was, God, what is there about that should affect me? And so as I reflected, I was listening to God, and the thought came to me, I want you to pray for China. And so in 1968, after I read that book, I began to pray for China, because God spoke to me. I heard him. He stirred my heart to pray. And so, you know, this week I prayed for China. We still have a couple, they actually just came back about a month ago, that were in the middle of China. And, you know, they're K-Staters. And I, you know, people have stirred that along. John Brooks and I went to China in 95, and John stirred that along in my life. And we met Elaine back there in Dalian, and she stirred that in my life. And so but I prayed for China, and some of you today have touched China too, and we're, you know, it's just incredible what God has done. But we have to listen to God and hear him. And I never grow out of that. You know, it's not something that I've arrived at. In fact, none of this stuff up here I've arrived at. But it's not theory to me. even though I haven't arrived at it. And so the presence of God, are we experiencing the ongoing presence? We may be going through hellish things. We may be having celebrations, but the ongoing presence of God. And I hope today you may have been out of K-State a year, or like some of you, 45 years, the presence of God. And so that's what's current to me, and it was way back when. Now, another thought, and I'm going to go through these quickly, so listen fast, is friends. And this all started with OU. Max mentioned these guys, and we've been friends ever since. We get together for a few days each week, each year. And don't tell anyone, this cannot leave this room, but we smoke one cigar a year. And we gamble. We play Texas Hold'em. And there's one other vice we do that I will not tell you, but we have so much fun. We laugh. We eat all the Brahms ice cream we can eat, and but we give a couple hours to each person, praying for each other, getting caught up in our stories, and so friends is so critical. I have a picture of some friends that I've got to know when they were students here that are friends, close friends to this day. And there's Sandy and I in the middle, and these friends. And so we became friends in the late 70s. So you do the math on that. And I would say I'm as close to them as I possibly could be, even if they actually lived in town. You see, geography does not have to hurt friendships. It does not. We make it hinder friendship, and it could be one of the key things that you all get out of this day together is reconnecting and begin to have an ongoing relationship. I have a good friend here that we didn't have any contact for 15 or 20 years. He was an architect out on the West Coast, and then he called me one day and asked, he was going to China, and he asked me if I'd heard of this town. It was the town that my daughter Deanne was at, and the town that I'd taken a group to. And Rod, where are you? Rod Vestal. So we were away from each other for, 15 or 20 years, and now we're really close. And they come to Manhattan occasionally. Mary's folks live here, and we connect all the time on phone and seeing each other. So geography does not have to hurt friendship. Now here's let me read a passage here. I think I've actually got a slide on this from Philippians chapter 1. It's a kind of a long one, so stay with me. I thank my God in all my remembrance of you, always in every prayer for you all making mention in my prayer with joy, because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now. And I am sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ. Now get this, verse 7. It is right for me to feel this way about you all, because I hold you in my heart. And that's what friends are. And Paul was talking to these people as beloved friends. And there's some more to the verse, but I would not be here today had it not been for friends holding me to the highest. We evaluate friends a lot of times on doing things together. Oh yeah, they're my friends. We do this, we do that. Now here's how I think friendship should be evaluated. Not so much what we do together, but rather how much we would have missed had we not been friends. I think that's really the hallmark of friendship. It's not so much how many things you do together, but really what you would have missed without this person in your life. And another thought, life is too short and the stakes too high to hide from people whom God would use to love you and encourage you. The stakes are way too high to not build close, godly, challenging friendships around your life. And they don't necessarily have to be locally. Usually they are, but they can be scattered literally all over the realm. One more thought and I'll close. Not only the presence of God and not only friends, but something that I speak to, when I speak to students these days, I almost never speak without touching on this because it is so reality to most everyone. And it's how do we grow our faith? And when I go to these conferences and stuff, students come up to me and say, well, I struggle trusting God. And so I begin to think about that, and I begin to see this, that here's the thing, the devil's the thief. And John 10:10 tells us that. He's also a liar. John 8:44 tells us that. So he's a thief and a liar. The devil is always trying to sabotage our life. And the key way I believe he does that is by the lies we believe. And here's a sampling of some of the lies that I hear from students these days, and I would bet you could agree in your own life at some of them. You know, I've talked to people that they believe way down deep, it wouldn't necessarily be open outwardly, they're stupid because someone at one time called them stupid. They believe they're inadequate. Our good speaker over the years, Gordon MacDonald, he struggled with this. Worthless. I've heard students and older people say, over the years, I've struggled with the lie of feeling worthless. I feel unknown. That's a big lie. I feel unwanted. I feel no value. I feel ugly. And so a lot of times these seeds are planted as a child. So, and it hinders faith. You know, if we way down deep, we're kind of sitting on this lie, we struggle with faith. So, you know, my lie, I believe, is that I'm below average because I grew up with hotshot athlete elementary school kids and that went to all the parties and birthday parties. And my parents were kind of humble, kind of blue-collar people. We had a lot of love in our home. But I just felt a step behind growing up. And to this day, in certain ways, I feel below average. And if I go into a room, you know, if I'm left to my flesh, I feel that, you know, I'm just a step behind everyone here. It doesn't matter that I have a master's degree with honors. It doesn't matter I've got a professional pilot's license. It doesn't matter if I was a combat officer in Vietnam. It doesn't matter if I've had good ministry. The lie can trump the truth. And if left to my own devices, it does. And it could in yours. So here's the story, and I'm closing with this. In Matthew 3, the story is about Jesus being baptized. So he comes up out of the water. A voice was from heaven, and God the Father says, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased." And so how God the Father views his Son is he's beloved. Now, do you know that, and here's my point, that when we invite Christ into our heart, you know what our name really is? It's Bob the Beloved. It's Sandy the Beloved. And so that is changing a lie to the truth. And so we fight a lie. You always fight a lie with the truth. And I would suspect some of you in this room need to sit down maybe by yourself or with others, and say, God, I am believing that I am your beloved. That's my name. I'm Bob, the beloved of God, and you're beloved. I don't care what's going on in your life or has gone on. And you need to let that truth settle in. Let me close with this passage in Lamentations. This is my little passage for the year that I started off in January. Lamentations 3, it says, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. And as I lean into that reality, God strengthens my faith. As I lean into I'm his beloved, my faith is stirred. And so that's where I am currently. And it's great to see y'all. Let me have a word of prayer and we'll move on. Lord, what a joy for me to be here with these dear friends from so broad a spectrum. Lord, I do pray that at the end of our time together, you would meet each one with your glorious grace. And we trust that to you in Jesus' name.